Hey, good to see you, Nick from Transform My Poker. I can't actually see you. Don't panic. It's not one of these webcam scenarios. Thank God. Let's move on. We're going to talk about opening up your poker game like it's Christmas. We're going to talk about becoming more aggressive and playing more hands and basically becoming a more front foot poker player. Someone that puts the pressure on rather than invites the pressure, if you like. And this is important because No Limit Hold'em is set up to be a game where you should play in that way. This is not something that me or other people would recommend just for the sake of it, just because it's fun, although it is fun, to make semi-bluffs and bluffs and to attack from late position, all of that stuff. It's because it's built on the fundamentals of No Limit Hold'em. And the first thing you need to do is understand that that's true so that you can then start to look how to do it in your own game. The reason it's true is there are two ways to win, right? The first way to win is have the best hand. The second way to win is everybody else folds. And if you're not taking advantage of the second way to win enough, in terms of getting people to fold when you don't have the best hand, then you are your game is not congruent with how the pillars of the game are set up, if that makes sense. You're actually acting in a way that is not the right way to win at No Limit Hold'em. So convincing yourself of that at a core level, that you need to be on the front foot, that you need to be aggressive, is really important. Now, don't box me into what I've just said. Obviously, there are different game conditions. There are sometimes when you should be passive. You should take passive lines sometimes. I'm not saying that one answer is for everything, but I am saying in general, the more aggressive you are, the better you'll do in No Limit Hold'em. And as you move up the limits in tournaments or cash, you will find more aggression more often, because that's what characterizes winning players. So how do you do it? How do you go from being maybe a passive player or maybe a player that doesn't play enough hands to being someone that really can put the pressure on? I've got some concrete steps for you. They're numbered. There's 5 of them. The first one we've already covered, really, so I got to jump on myself for once. My rambling has paid off. I know what you're thinking. And that's convince yourself of the right way to win mentality. And it is to take advantage of the fact that when everybody folds, you get to take down the pot. Now, in No Limit Hold'em, that happens more often because you can make bigger bets. In Limit Hold'em, we can't do that very much. We can't make impactful bets. In No Limit Hold'em, we can make bets that force players to make a decision for their entire stack or their tournament life or a significant percentage of it. So it's a much more powerful weapon. So if you're struggling with feeling like you're too passive or feeling like you're always the one under pressure, or if you just have this gut feeling that you're not getting enough folds when you play No Limit Hold'em or you're not bluffing enough, whatever it is, the first step, as I've said, is to make sure you are a front foot mentality player. So a really quick change you can make is that when you next play a game, when the action gets to you, ask yourself, is it possible for me to win this pot? Is it possible for me to win this pot? So, an example of where it wouldn't be possible, realistically, is if someone's raised, someone else has re-raised, and you've got Jack 4 offsuit. Now the chances of you winning this pot are really remote. But if nobody's opened, then you have a chance to win the pot, and you should seriously consider opening the action, right? Even with weaker hands, not necessarily with junk hands. So I'm just talking about a mentality here. I'm not asking you to raise every hand or go mental every hand or anything like that. I'm talking about what you can change in your thought processes to get on the front foot more often. The second thing that you can do to open up your game is to add more aggression. Now, I would add more aggression before adding more hands. What most people do when they try and open up their games, they start playing worse hands. Now, that's fine. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the danger with that is you start playing hands that are weak and you put yourself at a disadvantage, too much of a disadvantage, and you haven't addressed the core problem, which is getting other people to fold. That's the core problem most people have. When we see students here at Transform My Poker, one of the biggest issues they usually have is they're just too passive. They're not putting the pressure on other people, forcing other people to make decisions enough. So add aggression first. There are lots of ways that you can do this. I just went over one of them, which is really just have that front foot mentality. And every time it's your turn to act, how about try this? For the next 2 or 3 sessions, every time it's your turn to act, ask yourself, can I take an aggressive action here? Is there a justification for an aggressive action? Or you might ask yourself, if you don't have a strong hand, you might ask yourself, can I make him fold here? Or what percentage of the time will he fold to a bet or a raise here? And these questions are basically trying to provoke you to not only be more aggressive, but think about being more aggressive as a matter of course. The other thing you can do, of course, is go back over hands you've played, go back over your session. If you're online, get a poker tracker, please, so that you're recording your sessions. If you're playing live, make a note of significant hands that you play. There's plenty of downtime when you play live. You can even record your whole session. There are apps where you can, put in the cards that you play, not with a pen like that, with your finger. Record your hands and go back over them, and then just be super critical and ask yourself, can I be more aggressive in this hand? Just go through each hand and ask yourself, can I be more aggressive? These are sort of artificial ways of just getting you to take the lead more often, to open up your game and be the one putting the pressure on more often. Okay, so we've added aggression to our game. Now we're going to try and add some hands. And the key to adding hands, if you want to open up your game, is to add hands in position. Add hands in position. Now, so I mean later position, right? Late position in the button. It may be true that you're not playing enough hands from early position and middle position. That may be true, but that's not where you should start if you're trying to open up your game. Adding hands in early position is fraught with danger. It's very hard to make a significant difference to your profits from early position. You're probably only ever going to make a marginal difference. So if you're playing too tight in, say, the first 3 spots in a full ring game, most coaches aren't going to spend a lot of time with that on you with that, unless you're at a really high level where there are very small margins, because you can get into a lot more trouble and hurt your profits more than you can help them. Middle position, maybe you should be adding some hands, but don't do that first. Do it first in late position, because even if you end up playing too many hands from the hijack, cutoff and button, you in a lot of games will still be able to make money doing it, or your mistakes won't be that great. And I'd rather you corrected by adding too many hands than stay passive, because in order to be a winning poker player and a winning no-limit Hold'em tournament player, you do need to become very profitable from late position. That's just the way it is. Now, you can do this by gut feel. You can do this by just thinking, what's the worst hand? So you can ask yourself, what's the worst hand I play from the cutoff? And just think, okay, in a normal poker game, I'm not talking about short stacked, I'm talking about when you've got some chips to work with in tournaments. Okay, in a normal game, I wouldn't play Jack 8 offsuit, for example. Would I play Jack 9 offsuit? Probably not. So that's my cutoff. So now I'll start adding hands around the area. So you can do it like that, or you can do it more scientifically by actually constructing ranges of hands that you open from different slots. So I think the short way to do this is to divide hands into early position, middle position, and late position. Go back over your hand histories and work out what hands you're actually playing. Sometimes we do things differently to how we actually do it. So if you've tracked your hand, you can construct a range that you're playing and now start to open it up. The other way you can do this is just get any of the poker software help that show you percentage of ranges. So you can put in, 15% of hands and get familiar with what hands are in what percentage, and then try to expand your percentage. But start adding hands from late position, Spend a little bit of time working out what you're actually doing, and then add some hands in late position and see how you get on. All right. But you'll notice I'm being much more cautious about this, because what I don't want you to do is just watch this video, resolve to be more open and more laggy, and then go out and play bad hands. Because if you're going to start opening Jack 4 offsuit from middle position, you're going to start losing money, probably. So add aggression first, add hands second, once you feel like you've got a more aggressive mindset and you're having some success with it and you've tailored it, so you're not just spewing off chips. And then add hands and do that first from late position. That's how I would do it. Next, look at post-flop spots. Post-flop aggression. This is a huge, obviously, there could be so many different post-flop situations. In general, you want to be going over hands you've played and thinking about where you could be more aggressive, and just look for typical spots. So a very typical spot in students that we have here that we see is people not semi-bluffing enough. So when you have a draw or a hand with good equity, maybe, an overcard and a backdoor draw and stuff like that, and you have an opponent who probably isn't that strong, most players are not aggressive enough in those situations. So that's somewhere that you could typically start. But it needs to be tailored to your individual game. So look through your hand histories and figure out where you could be more aggressive. Another way to do this is to look at a hand that you've played and turn it round, right? Think about your opponent's hand. Think about an average hand he has in that spot. So not the top of his range, not the bottom, like an average strength hand. And ask yourself how much you would like to be attacked in that spot. Is this a spot where if somebody bet or raised you, you'd have a really hard time, wouldn't know what to do? If it is, then you should be, taking that bluff spot, taking that semi-bluff spot. Ask yourself, when does my opponent not want to be pressured, right? What are the signs that he doesn't want to be pressured? Maybe he's open from late position. Maybe he's somebody that you've seen fold too much post-flop, just that kind of blank check that he folds too much. Maybe he's checked the flop and he is a binary player and does that when he's weak. Maybe he's a bet sizing tell on the flop, whatever it is. But ask yourself, take this mentality to post-flop situations as well. This is all something that you can make a big difference with quickly, but it all comes with a health warning. I don't want you to suddenly start making tons and tons and tons of aggressive bets. I do want you to start really getting a bit more surgical with this, thinking about how you can open up your game and starting to do it, because you will get the rewards. And if you want to move up the limits, it's something that you need to do, because there are less and less free chips that you just get for having aces as you move up the limits. Finally, a little game that you can play to make this real. You can play the late position game. So the late position game is not playing optimal poker. So this is not a way to win more money in the long term. This is a way to get used to opening up your game. If you're going to get confident with being more aggressive and playing a few more hands, then you actually have to get some experience with that. You have to get some experience as to how other players react to your aggression. You have to get some experience having marginal hands, not just great hands or terrible hands, and making those marginal, should I continue being aggressive decisions. So put yourself in those spots more often. The late position game is for the next 1 or 2 sessions, 2 or 3 sessions, you have a rule where if you're not short stacked, so you have to have chips to work with, if the pot hasn't been opened, so everybody's folded round to you, and you are in one of the last 2 or last 3 positions, up to you, depends on how many players are at the table, you must open the pot whatever your cards. So you must open raise whatever the cards. From then on, you make the best poker decision, right? So there are no rules after that. You just play the best that you can. So you're going to end up in pots with like 9-3 offsuit, which we wouldn't normally want to do very often unless we had an optimal situation. However, this is about putting yourself in marginal situations where you've been aggressive and deciding if you can continue to be aggressive. It's a really good experiment to do, but it is an experiment, right? Health warning continues. So don't expect to suddenly win tons of money like this, but do expect to improve your poker, and it will help you open up your game and get you more confidence with playing in late position, playing aggressively in late position, and playing some marginal hands. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you'd like to take your poker to the next level, then click the link underneath the video. You'll come over to our site, you can sign up by email and get your hands on a free training resource that will get you improvement in your game tonight. Just click that link under the video to get it. Now, if you've enjoyed this, then please do let us know by liking the video and leave a comment. If you've got a question for us, we'd love to hear from you. And if you're enjoying these videos, let's make this relationship official. You can go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and you'll be the very first to know when we publish a new video or new lesson designed to help your game. All right, thanks again for watching, and remember to run good, because that's the hard part.